Welcome to a new video. It's nice to see you all again. If you happen to watch for the first time, then welcome to my home. I'm Alexandra and I like to make videos that help improve our everyday lives. So thank you so much for being here. Today's video belongs in the personal growth category, but there are several other playlists you may be interested in, like relationships, beauty, and career. So if this is your first time here, I encourage you to check some of those other videos that you may like. And before moving forward, I really wanted to share some thoughts with you. The full launch of this channel really actually happened about 5 months ago, and since then this little community started forming, and there have been several beautiful, kind people that have been supporting this series very passionately, many of them watching every single video that I make. And you know, all this started with the simple thought that if I can help change one person's life, I'd be so happy. And then the one happened, and then two, and three, and then the numbers kept growing. And thank you so much for all your support, for your love. I'm so grateful, and I promise to continue listening to your feedback and ideas, trying to make these videos better, staying true to putting content out there that's strong, and remain humble to you watching and thankful that we get to be on this ride together because we have each other. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody watching, and especially to the amazing souls that are there with me every day on social media and every week on my YouTube channel. So thank you very much. About today's topic, about getting over fears. I did a Facebook poll not too long ago where I asked you which topic you would like me to make a video about, and the answer that dominated was facing and overcoming fears. Now, this is a very general canvas because not all fears can be handled the same way. But what I'll do is that I'll give you some general but strong ideas that you can bring into your life and have the ability to tailor far more easily from there to perhaps address more specific and complex concerns. Now, I have to remind everyone that I'm not a doctor or a therapist, and the only thing that I'm doing is I'm sharing with you what has worked for me. These are personal experiences that have successfully worked and continue to work for me, but they may not work for everybody. So please be aware of that and consult with any appropriate figures before trying anything that I'm suggesting here today. Now, in many of my videos, when dealing with any issue, I always start with the idea of identifying what that specific issue is. And I do that for a reason. I found on my own skin that success margins increase when there's clarity of focus and an order to things that make sense. If you are at a restaurant and you're eating dessert first and then the main course followed by coffee and then an appetizer, you may not be able to finish everything off your plate, and you could even get indigestion. So to a certain extent, the same idea applies to the things that we do in life. I wish there was a way to teleport ourselves to the finish line, but there is no such thing yet. And if we try to cut corners or randomly do things, we may lose our way in the process and never really get where we wanted to go or get there as strong as we wanted to. So if that makes sense, then you'll understand why I believe that the first step is to take your time and identify all your fears. Don't put anything in any order yet. Just take a blank piece of paper and a pen and write down all your fears. I'll read some of the fears that I had written in 2013. Fear of sharks, don't judge, fear of rejection, fear of failure, and fear of being alone. Now, the key for me was to not leave my list at that, but go further. Rejection of what, where, why, by whom? Fear of failure of what? Of relationship with whom? Of doing what specifically? If we're going to take a brush to fill in some of the blank spaces, we have to know where to put that brush. Otherwise, we'll just be sitting in front of a canvas and taking a guess, and that is not efficient. So list everything you fear. From what I mentioned earlier, I had sharks and rejection on the same paper. So that you have physical fears, psychological fears, or any sort of fear, really, you should list it all here. Once you're done writing all of them, we have to assign priorities. So go down the list and follow the good old elimination process. Ask yourself, which of these fears is most important to me, and which one would I like to help fix first? Sharks or rejection? Assign a number to each fear, from 1 to 15 if you have 15 fears listed, or 1 through 6 if you have 6 fears on your list. But that number 1 will be the most important fear that you want to also work on first. Because overcoming fear is not as easy as baking, I recommend dealing with one at a time rather than getting too excited and trying to fix everything at once, because that almost always never works. And that is why I'm recommending you to sort out the fears by order of importance. So take your time, and only when you become comfortable with one fear should you start working on another. Now, take that first fear and try to answer the following questions. Where did this fear begin? What's the history behind it? How long have you been affected by this fear? What are the elements that trigger that fear? In other words, when does this fear pop up? What triggers it? How has this fear affected your life? What I'd like for you to please keep in mind is that if you fear something because of its dangerous nature, that fear is simply a natural evolutionary mechanism that keeps us out of harm's way. So you just have to figure out if the fear itself is there for a good reason or if it's only inhibiting you. For example, if you fear going to the mall because of the large crowd, but you are in good health, then that fear is inhibiting, not so much a danger to your health and well-being, if that makes sense. So before trying to work on anything, it's good to know what you have to work with, work on, and why. And that is why the discovery phase is really important. Once I've identified all my fears and put my focus on number one and started the process of looking for answers and understanding why it's there, what I did next was try to figure out why I want to overcome it. Basically, I wrote down all the reasons why I wanted to deal with my fear, how I'd feel once I regained control, what I'd experience or learn as a result, how my life would change, etc. If you do that, you are laying an emotional foundation that every time you hit a hurdle on the way, it will provide you with the motivation you need, because you'll be able to pull from those emotions, look at those reasons why you're pushing forward, and then get some of that support you may need internally during the process to keep you moving forward. After I wrote down why I want to overcome my fear, I then took that fear and conceptualized an ideal scenario, meaning what would I have to be doing as the end goal to confidently acknowledge to myself that I have faced that fear. For my fear of sharks, that would be diving in a shark cage. For my fear of being alone, that meant staying single for at least 6 months. Does that make sense? If you don't know what that marker will be, you might not realize your progress or acknowledge your success and never really know where you stand. As you have that goal in mind, the moment that will serve as a recognition of having faced your fear, you need to outline the small steps you'll need to take to reach that end goal. So basically, I will need to do A this month. I will need to push myself to do B next month. If I can't do it the first time, I'll try again and again and again, and once B is out of the way, I'll need to do C after that, and so on. Small steps to continuously move forward. Now, when it comes to these small steps, what I found that works for me is a cognitive behavioral approach. I recommend you research cognitive behavioral therapy or speak with a professional to understand more, but in a nutshell, this technique, and I'm going to quote a more simple Wikipedia explanation, this technique acknowledges that there may be behaviors that cannot be controlled through rational thought, but rather emerge based on prior conditioning from the environment and other external and or internal stimuli. So thinking happy thoughts to face fears may not always work, and that has been the case with many of my own fears. So one of the CBT approaches that I followed in my life has been dealing with the fears by gradually getting desensitized. For my fear of sharks, for example, and I keep bringing this one up because I think it's funny, but also very easy to understand as a concept, which you can then take this concept and apply it to more complex fears, now that you understand it. But the fear of sharks is truly one of my biggest fears in life. I live in Southern California and I have never, ever been in the ocean here, like ever, not even to my knees. Partially too because the water is not clear, so once you're in it, if you can no longer touch the bottom floor, the odds are you won't see what's in the water anymore, so that kind of adds to my freaking out. But as silly as this may sound, this fear has been inhibiting me from having fun in the water when everybody else is in, or exploring. So I knew I really wanted to deal with this. I went through the discovery process, and when it came down to setting my goal, I realized that in order for me to face my fear and get over it, the goal would be to get into a shark cage, and the legit way too, like scuba suit, cold water, dive deep down. But like with most fears, I can't go from not even putting a toe in the water to diving, because I will absolutely fail 100%. So for the past year and a half, I have been slowly desensitizing myself. The first step was to get into the water, but can I go straight into the freaky dark water? No. So I started the process during our first vacation in the Dominican Republic. Hola a todos mis amigos que hablan español. The water is very clear there, and for the first 3 days, I'd hold my husband's hand real tight and get in little by little. First was up to the knees, and then I'd run back on land, and then every day I would go in a little deeper. I made sure my husband was close to me at all times, so that made me feel more comfortable, and I also made sure that I was in an area with a lot of spotters on the beach. Psychologically, it helped make me feel better. But by the end of the trip, I was in neck deep. Then when I went back home, I started swimming at the local gym pool and started becoming more comfortable with my movement in the water and learned how to handle myself better in it. But still, can I go scuba now? No. So the first step would be to learn how to snorkel. I started snorkeling in the pool. It looked crazy, but I didn't care. Then 8 months ago, when we went back to the Dominican Republic, I got adjusted to going deeper into the water a lot faster. And by day 3, I was ready to snorkel in it, and I did it. And that was amazing, but that has given me the strength to look into getting scuba certified. From there, I met with an instructor, learned more about the process, and now I'm ready to start the classes. So this has been really exciting. But this small step for many has been a huge step for me. And what I shared with you is basically what I mean by taking small steps to desensitize yourself. If you have a fear of spiders, start by looking at funny cartoons of spiders to start getting yourself used to looking at them. When you can control your reaction, move on to photos, then videos. Then ask a trusting friend or your spouse to let you clean a dead spider. If you fear public speaking, start in your room by yourself and speak as if you would address a large crowd. Do that for a while to practice, then introduce a video camera and start recording yourself speaking. Speak right in front of it and look at it. When you feel comfortable again, do the same thing but in front of your significant other, a parent or a friend. Then look at supportive learn by doing environments like Toastmasters International. If you're afraid of change, start by making small changes to your daily routine, like waking up at a different hour or changing up the time when you usually work out, etc. You see, you're working through all the different stages and you're slowly desensitizing yourself and learning to realize that you are capable at handling different situations, not to mention your self-confidence will soar with each step you take. Now, in many instances, fear also comes alongside anxiety, and I've made a very complex video on how to deal with anxiety, like how to use the proper breathing technique and so much more, and I linked that video below for you because anxiety doesn't give us the liberty to think clearly, so controlling the anxiety will get you one step closer to conquering your fears. They typically go in line like this, so that should be of great help. Fears also become more manageable if we start looking at them as opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to maybe meet new people along the way, to strengthen ourselves and learn new things in the process. Also, a general rule when it comes to overcoming fears is you have to accept that you'll never have all the information. So if you're holding back from doing something right now because you need to learn more, you might as well put a stop on what you're doing because all the information you want will most likely never come. So you have to decide if what you want is worth taking a chance more than never having tried it at all. You also have to believe in yourself. But I know this is when it gets tricky because we all have insecurities. You just need to have enough confidence to know that you will be able to deal with anything that could happen as a result of you finding your inner courage. And I will post a link below to the personal growth playlist because there are a couple of videos in there addressing the very many different things we can do to increase our self-confidence. Never feed your fear by telling yourself you're not capable of doing something. Please start working on your self-confidence first and then decide if you realistically can or can't do something. Don't let potential fear of failure to define who you are, and never confuse fear with destiny. Oh, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. That's not true. The truth is that you have control to steer yourself in many different directions, and that includes the path that you will take. So exercise your control. Once you work on fear number 1 and you're making continuous progress that you're proud of, and then you're ready to continue down the list, you can basically follow the same track of ideas that you did with number 1. I also think that you should celebrate every little victory along the way because I know firsthand little victory actually is quite a big victory. I would not wait till you hit the big goal because every small step is a huge milestone. Big walls are built using small bricks, so be proud of yourself and celebrate every cornerstone. The morning of this video launch, I sent out an email to the beautiful soul subscribed to it with private access to a PDF file that you can print out. Everything that I mentioned here has been carefully put together on a spreadsheet, so that will make it a lot easier to follow all the ideas that I mentioned. You can print that and then you can just go off on your journey. Also, part of the private content are affirmations to feel more courageous and motivated, and some more ideas to help you overcome your fears. If you don't know about my email, I send it once a week with the launch of a new video, so it adds more value to every video. It's never spam, and it's just full of tips and ideas that are never launched publicly. So if you'd like to join us, you can do so on my website, and I'll link to it also in the video description. Don't forget that if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you'll also be entered to win in this week's giveaway that ends today at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. The winner will be announced in the description of last week's video, which I'll link below, and I will contact the winner the same day. So good luck today and every day. Thank you for watching and for your support. I love you very much, and I can't wait to see you in next week's video. And stay in touch with me on social. Till then.